Hello again, welcome to the Memoir channel. My name is Nikki Smart and today I'm going to be speaking with C.A. Gilchrist about his memoir, The Truth About Demons. So I couldn't put this book down, I just gobbled it up. It's really engaging, it's really well written. Cam spent a lot of time at the library when he was young. He's a voracious reader, he loves books. He says that they saved him from some of his really dark hours. The books helped him get through it. And all his reading paid off because you can see it in his writing. He's very witty. He's got a great sense of humor, the way his sentence structure. I loved it. Cam has owned an art gallery, an entertainment company, a production company. He was doing source engineering. He plays guitar and DJing. And so, his book is such a wild ride. And it goes from one extreme to the opposite end of the spectrum extreme. It needs to be a movie because you're just like, wait, what? What? And it's such a page turner because you just really want to know what's going to happen. It's really engaging and well done, Cam. So let's go talk to Cam and find out more. Hi, Cam. Thank you so much for coming and being on the Memoir channel.
Hi, Nikki. It's a pleasure to be here, and thank you for what you do for Memoir. I really appreciate your show
Oh,
and your
thank you. Thank you.
giving authors a chance to speak is rare these days and
Yeah,
important.
yeah. So for people that haven't or know nothing about your memoir, can you just sort of give a brief outline of what it is about? The truth about demons.
I'd love to. So, the truth about demons is my personal story. It occurs from the time I'm approximately 8 years old to approximately 23, 24, and it covers a very tumultuous time in my life. I was raised in Levittown, Pennsylvania, a blue-collar working town on the East Coast, to what you would consider a normal neighborhood. However, hidden under the disguise of normality was some pretty interesting experiences that I lived through.
Hmm.
It's a coming of age story, but it is how I learned to return to my childhood hopes and dreams for my life. And I start
Yeah,
out as a child in the book, and I regale the experiences that I went through.
yeah. Um, I thought your story was really well mapped out, and I wondered if you actually did an outline. Did you know where you were going the whole time?
I didn't. I'm normally a very outline person. I
Hmm.
normally do
Hmm.
for the work that I do and for some other writing projects. I very much, but for this I did not. I did do it in chronological order, however. So I started with what I believed was my youngest experience that would tell my story. And then after I finished that story, I looked, through mental recollection and research, I found the next story. And I think the little bites enabled me to get through it and
Yeah.
craft an overall look into that period of time.
Right, because it comes out really well. I love your sentence structure, and I love that sometimes you started a chapter with information that I didn't actually know where you were now, and then you kind of fill it in afterwards. And I thought that was quite effective because I'm like, wait, what the hell's going on now? So I need to keep going to find out, right? So,
That is actually my design. When I started on this journey, I'd never written a full-length novel, book, memoir before. This was the very longest thing I've ever written. I did write with the intention of publication to share my story with the world in the hopes that maybe it can help somebody somewhere.
right.
And I read, I guess, about 45 books on writing, subscribed to many podcasts and many websites because, as you know from my story, books are
Yeah,
what steered me.
right.
So I returned back to that, of course, never left. But and the overarching piece that came through in every book of advice about writing is you've got to keep your reader interested.
Well, yes,
Right. Yes,
it does
right.
help.
It's so simple to an author, but not so much to
Hmm.
what I would consider myself as a non-author when I started. So I did want to lead off every chapter to pull the reader into the
Hmm.
experience that was happening in that storyline.
Yeah,
And I wanted to leave a little bit of hang to
right.
make them want to continue reading into the next
No, it was
chapter.
great. You did really well. I was completely engaged.
Excellent.
And my thought was, it needs to be a movie because it's such a wild ride, and you just go, it's quite extreme. You go from like I'm homeless and completely poverty stricken to now I'm in this hotel and everything's paid for, and it's like, wow. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's interesting you say that. There has been a little bit of an interest from a
Hmm.
producer. Actually, more around the first five chapters. And for those who haven't read it, I
Hmm.
was pursued by a child serial killer. In my opinion, he was a serial killer.
Yeah,
That hasn't been confirmed in later years, but all the indicators were there according to professionals I've spoken with in my personal experience, and I escaped him three times. And that is of interest to somebody. That piece is actually in discussion. We'll go, no, 90% of these things never see the light of day or go anywhere, but we're
right.
having conversations.
But I must say, it's a great way to start too, because I thought that's where the story was going. Because I'm like,
Mm.
oh, that's what the demon is. It's this evil thing that, and then it's like surprise because it completely twists around, and it's like it's got nothing to do with that. That was just kind of,
In a way, it does.
it does. That's true. It
Because
kind of set it up.
Caleb
Yeah.
had his demons, and
Hmm.
the truth I was trying to show was the truth about his demons as well as the ones that I picked up through my
Right.
years.
Right.
So I do, but I agree with you that the story does sort of begin as an action adventure thriller horror in a way, and
Hmm.
I've actually been chided for that because some folks have actually purchased my book and read it and said I wasn't expecting that. I thought this was more of a horror book. I loved it, but I was surprised as you
Yeah.
were.
Yeah.
I do take that beyond just that experience.
Yeah. And then I thought the way, that you call your mother the mother, that you put the in,
Yeah.
and it's a very effective way of showing that you needed a buffer all
Yeah.
the time. You needed to put something, and I did that just come naturally? Did that just come out? Like, when did that start? Or
Yeah, good question. So that was how I thought of her when I was a child.
yeah,
I thought of my father and the mom. And that
the
indeed was a
mom,
way of distancing myself from, shall we say, her demons and the negative side of
right?
her life. She had them too, obviously. And an interesting side note, years later, here I am writing this story, and I submitted chapters of my book to a few different publication companies and a few different competitions and won several of the competitions. But prior to publication in the collection of short stories, every single editor without fail said to delete the word the.
No, I thought it was great. I mean, it just got the
Yeah,
point
interesting, right?
across.
Yes.
And as you get deeper and deeper into it, you totally understand why you need the there. You need it. Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you.
That
Well,
was,
that was a bone of contention and a fight. In fact, I dropped out
mhm.
of being published in several pieces because they refused to let that stand, which I thought was an interesting hill to die on for all of us. But I died on that hill because I thought it was important to the story and a very simple visual insight into how I thought about
Mhm.
those events and her role in those events at the time.
Right. Now, is your mom still with us? No,
She
she's,
is still with us.
is.
She absolutely
And
is. And
are
we do.
you
And
okay?
yeah, we do speak, and I've forgiven her many years ago. We're all products of our lives
Yeah.
and the history that we take with us and the generational abuses that we carry, and we're all doing the best we can.
Yeah. So, I mean, the other thing that was quite a surprise to me was how strict the Jehovah Witness. I had no idea there were so many rules and that it was so restrictive.
Yeah, yeah, they're very
Um,
much a high control group, very much.
wow. So, yeah, and then so I know Sid, who you actually dedicate the book to him, right?
Yes,
Played a huge part in your life, and he was also in the same. He was also Jehovah's Witness, right? His family was also. So, did you left, right? You left it behind you, and you're no part of it anymore. And he did that too.
he did.
He didn't
Yes,
stay in it.
absolutely, he
So
did
if you
not.
if you do that, does that mean you are no longer able to communicate with your like? Well, I mean, you do communicate with your family, but you're sort of shunned, aren't you? Because
Yes, yes.
right.
The Jehovah's Witness organization, as well as many other high control religious groups, try to keep their ranks clean, so to
Hmm.
speak, by eliminating non-believers or minimizing them in some way. And the Jehovah's Witnesses very much adhere to that. They have several different methods of getting you in line when you start to question beliefs. It's from something as simple as being marked, or you've got a double secret probation mark on you, and everybody kind of knows it, so they
Yeah.
don't invite you to things. It's way of ostracizing, all the way up to what's called a disfellowshipping, where you are removed from the congregation, so to speak, and no one is really allowed to talk or associate with you much.
Right. Which is what
Many,
happened to
many
you, right?
It did not. I was not
Ah,
disfellowshipped. I kind of disappeared.
okay.
What some folks would call faded. But yeah, I disappeared. I was never disfellowshipped. They tried to mark me and reprove me for very innocent transgressions, but it never really stuck. I was a bit slippery, shall we say. However, Sydney was disfellowshipped several times or twice, and he tried to make it back in. And getting back in is a laborious process of basically proving to the leaders of the local church that you have no more independent thought and that you agree with everything they tell you. And he went through
Oh,
that twice, and then he said no. And this had actually occurred uh, just prior to me leaving, I guess you would say, yeah, if I remember my timelines right.
yeah,
So we were both out at the time. Most of the events later in the book occur with Sydney and I.
yeah. I mean, it's also nice you said it's from about the age of 8 to about 23 is what your memoir is spanning, which is interesting because I didn't really know how old you were towards, I kind of there's no more reference to age. So I know you were
Yes,
18 when you left, but then I'm like, I don't know. Um,
yes,
so that's
yeah,
kind of interesting. So you're really young. I mean, oh my gosh, you really went through it, didn't you? Um, yeah.
a little bit, a
So,
little.
so when did you decide to write this? Because you only released it last year, right?
1 year ago yesterday. So this is an
Okay,
anniversary
okay.
of sorts. So thank you for this because it absolutely helps me refocus on the anniversary and the 12 months of being published. Yes, it was January 15th of last year when the
Hmm.
book hit the market, so to speak. But I think to answer your question, you're probably going to ask, or you were about to ask,
Yeah.
is I wrote the book in the previous 2.5 years leading to publication. I wrote the first draft over the course of a year. Then, of course, you know this probably from either your own writing or other
Hmm.
writings. There's a lot of bouncing about with the editing,
Yeah.
and then the pursuit of a publisher. Being a non-famous person, writing a memoir, getting published is next to nigh impossible, especially these days.
Yeah.
But I went through the traditional query methodology. No one wanted my little story. So I said, well, you know what? I think it's possible to self-publish. So I went back to the board and I wrote 30 books on self-publishing. Books are the key to anyone wondering how do
I
I
mean,
get a book published? Read just the way you learn to write. Read, and I did a self-publishing and fairly adept at it now, and actually helping some other authors with some of their self-publishing efforts now, and it's been
yeah.
joyous to do that.
Good, good, fantastic. But I'm wondering, when did you know that you wanted to write this story?
Uh,
Yeah,
my
when did,
entire life,
okay.
yeah, my entire life, I knew that I wanted to tell this particular story from probably 1987, 1988 is when I
Okay.
really wanted to tell the story. And of course, I was in no condition at the time. I hadn't come to grips with a lot of my own personal truths and really determined and faced all the demons. I was going through a lot
Hmm.
of that process then. So it's always been with me. The initial title that I gave it back in 1987 or 1988 was The Joys and Pains of My Construction.
Okay.
So I've always wanted to tell my story, but that story changed quite a bit as back in the 80s, my story was about my childhood. But as I got some space, some distance between the
Hmm.
events of the 80s and now, then the story grew to encapsulate, more of
Yeah.
the whole journey, as it were.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. I mean, it is a journey. And yeah, I think you did a great job. Well done.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Would you maybe read us a section from your book?
I would love to. From chapter one, Tree of Knowledge. I pulled the baggie of Coke out of my pocket. It was empty, just like me. How was I still alive? I probably wouldn't be for long. You can't just walk away from these people, no matter who you know. They would find me. Who cares anyway? Everyone I loved was dead or gone. Maybe it was time to join them. My car turned into my old street as if guided by spirit magnets. The gas tank gave up the last of its fumes and the engine stalled, coasting to a stop across the street from my childhood home. I got out to confront the focus of my early construction. The gravity of the place may be too heavy to stand. I slumped back against the car door. I survived a lot in the years since I called this my home, more than anyone had a right to. Maybe I'd used up all my allotted luck, for this life at least. Was there a trace of me to be found in its old wood? Something good, something redeemable, something I could use. Where was the boy who was going to be an astronaut, a doctor, a scientist? Where was the boy who vibrated with plans birthed from a flashlight lit book under a blanket? Where was the boy who swam in rivers of words and danced into the light of 1,000 different suns? Was there anything left of that me besides an echo?
Yeah, and then you kind of circle back to that part later on in the book, right? Which I like. I
Indeed.
like that too. Yeah, but that was,
Starts at a library and it ends at a library.
yeah,
So
yeah. And I actually read a little bit on your website. You have some blogs there, and I read the one where you said, how the library was your sanctuary and was such an important part,
mm,
played such an important part, and now you are on the shelves in the library. And I thought, isn't that lovely? Ah, yeah, it's great.
life has an interesting way of coming full circle sometimes.
Hmm. And okay, I also wanted to ask you because you mentioned, you were going to all these clubs at one point when you were DJing and
Mhm.
you saw Prince, but I guess when you saw Prince, he was just like a nobody, right?
He
Sounds
was
like.
very, yeah, true. I could regale you with tales from the club days of artists I saw who were not even known at the time. Prince was known on the radios by one of his singles. So he was like a single dance artist. And at the time, single dance artists were, they were come and go. So who knew that he would turn into what he turned into? But I could tell, even at that concert, that there was something really special that this guy had going on. The
Yeah.
musicianship, the presentation, the singing. I was transfixed by Prince. And, I have quite a few stories along those lines too that didn't make the book, but it was really an interesting way to come up working in the music industry as a DJ. And I say music industry because I'm just in the peripherals of it as someone
Hmm.
who plays other people's music. But it did plug me into, the music scene pretty deeply. And I loved every second of it at the time for sure.
Are you still doing anything like that?
Interesting that you should say that. So, the two things that I wanted to accomplish in my life, I mean, there's a big list of things I wanted to accomplish, but the two things that are kind of still hanging out there is to write a book. So, I did that. Although there are a few other writing projects I'm engaged with right now. But the second is write a musical.
Ah,
So, I am,
oh, 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 please do that. I'd be so interested to see what
thank
it's
you.
going to come up with. Huh,
Yeah, so I'm 18
musical.
songs written in, half of what's called the book, which is the word given to the lyrics and more, plus more of a musical, which gives you, of course, the dialogue, the music, stage action, even set design can fall into there. That's about halfway done, and it's moving at a rather rapid clip, and it does relate to the truth about demons.
Okay.
And I won't say quite how, but it does relate to the story. It is oh boy, that's all I'll say for now. I don't want to let on
Okay.
too much.
Okay. Oh, no, I'm fascinated. Okay,
Yeah.
good, good, good,
So
good.
you were the first person to hear publicly about the musical. So
Right.
it's kind of appropriate in this 1 year anniversary that I can talk about it. It won't be
Yeah.
called The Truth About Demons. I will give you this much. It will
Mhm.
occur in New York City in the years 19 late 70s, maybe early 80s. And that's all. We'll just leave it sit there.
All right. Well, I look forward to that. And do you actually play guitar? Because I saw you were saying somewhere along the line you were dabbling in it, right?
I still dabble. I've dabbled in playing instruments my entire life. It started out with clarinet in elementary school, which I hated, but it migrated to saxophone, which I loved. But guitar has always been my passion because if you can play guitar, you can meet girls,
All
and
right.
that's how I'll be quite honest. That's how I started wanting to play guitar.
Yeah.
And I think if you listen to most interviews with rock stars, it's pretty much what it's. Why do you start guitar? To meet the ladies.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's migrated a bit now, and now I do play guitar, and I use that in some of my lyrical compositions. I'm not very good, but get a
Yeah.
little better every day.
I mean, it sounds like your DJing got you quite a bit of female attention too, actually. So,
Yes, yes, yeah. I was
and
a young
then,
man, and at the time, it was a fun lifestyle to lead for a while.
yeah, no, it did sound very fun and also very not fun. Um,
Yes.
and then I also read somewhere that you were doing some stand-up comedy. Are you doing that?
Well, actually, I didn't write that I was doing any stand-up comedy. It said that
You,
I write the routines, which I
you,
do. I like to write routines,
okay.
and they never go anywhere. And actually, a good friend of mine, Gerald, and I had a bet that we were both going to commit to a 10-minute stand-up at the comedy store or the
So
comedy
brave,
shop.
so brave.
Yes, we never did it, but I want to return to that. I still think we should hold each other's feet to the proverbial
To that
fire.
fire. Yeah, yeah. I think it's, to me, that sounds like one of the scariest things to do. I don't know why, but stand-up comedy sounds pretty terrifying.
I would, you're putting yourself up there for immediate, a book is different. You write a book, you
Yeah.
put it out, and no one's in your face saying, I didn't like your book. It's different. You can kind of push the comments, the negativity away a little bit. There's a little bit of a
Yeah.
layer between you and the reader. Stand-up comedy, not so much. It's
Yeah.
you and the
It's
audience,
instant.
instant feedback, right? Instant feedback and perhaps instant karma. So yes, I'm afraid of that too. But I still want to do it. I want to give it a try.
I realized once that when you're writing, you can write whatever you want to write. And I realized that some of the stuff I wrote, I couldn't actually say out loud to somebody. And then I thought a bit more about that. I thought because I'll see on their face how it's affecting them or how they're reacting. Whereas if I'm going to put a book, I have no idea. So there's such a huge safety in that. Yeah.
Yes, and I think it's good because that gives you the freedom to say it the way it was meant for you to say it. Writing is one of the few things where you can distance yourself from the populism until after it's out. And that enables you to be more truthful, more daring. Geez, there's a lot more adjectives I could throw at it, but I think it's a good thing that we don't have instant feedback on our
Yeah.
writing.
Still wanting to write more.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
And you want to
yeah.
keep going with the memoir vein, or do you want to try something different?
So I've been considering a follow-up to the memoir, but not an extension of the memoir.
Hmm.
The story from my life I've been able to tell.
Right.
Several readers have asked me, will I be writing anything about my recovery? The
Hmm.
recovery from those times, more in-depth look. I kind of summed up the memoir with a very quick chapter, giving a flash forward, as it were,
Yeah.
to a kid's wedding, which shows that I was okay, I was secure, I had a good job, and I was past the negative events of my life, at least at that time. Um, and I've been asked, well, you skipped out of your recovery. Well, how did you, learn
Yeah.
to function again? How did you get a job like you have? How did you get to this, to that, to this? And, they wanted somebody to draw the, and if I had done that, it'd been another 100,000 words. And I think
Hmm.
there's a lot of tracks that people can follow to get the help they need. But I do have, think, something to say on building a life that you want and fulfilling earlier dreams of how you perceived your life
Hmm.
to. We sometimes forget that it's okay to live the life that we want, and we all live the life that we think we should. There's something to be said there. So I've been
Hmm.
working on a draft of a book that may just share some of my thoughts around that. But I don't know if that'll be something I pursue to publication. We'll see how that goes. But
Yeah.
yes,
Okay.
but other than that, my focus has been on the musical. I've been obsessed
No,
for the
that's good
last.
though. Keep that, get it going, get it out there. That's great.
Thank you. Thank you.
And I was going to tell you this too, because I looked on your Instagram and there was one post that made me laugh so hard that I wrote it down here. And it was apparently putting Alka-Seltzer in your mouth while getting baptized and pretending you're possessed by demons is not that funny. Something along those lines. I was like, that's hilarious.
Not mine. I did steal that, but yeah, I just the ex cult members is kind of it's an interesting group of people. It's people that are all searching for themselves again, trying to find themselves, and they cope and deal quite a bit with the pains with comedy. And there are some really funny folks in that space. And I cracked up when I saw that, and I thought back, if somebody was trying to leave that religion and did that, it
Oh
would
my
be.
God. Yeah, it would be pretty
Because
good.
they do believe in demon, very much so. So it would be an
Yeah.
interesting.
Well, I think you're quite remarkable, and I love that you fought. You fought against it all, and I feel like you won.
I do feel like I won, and now we have to help the other folks that are fighting,
Yeah.
especially
And
in our country, especially during this time.
one more question. Your
Yeah,
surname, how do you pronounce your surname?
Gilchrist.
Gilchrist, but I just think it's lovely that it has the word Christ in it,
Interesting, right?
right? Yeah. I'm like,
And Gail
oh,
is a follower of Christ.
that's what it means?
Yeah.
Gilchrist?
Uh-huh.
Wow.
And I like to think that I follow the Christ example daily, even though I'm
You
not a
do.
religious.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I'm
more
not.
so, more. I mean, I think that the Jehovah stuff sounds awful, and it's so not what love is about. It's the exact opposite.
Yeah.
It's called control. What's that? That
I was fortunate in that I don't know something that was installed in me either by my father and mother at a young age, or just my genetic RNA makeup made me very combative. From a very young age, I was like,
Okay,
"Yeah, I'm going to need you to prove that to me."
I love that.
And just a quick story that didn't make the
Yeah,
book, but part of the way that I got there was through my father's humor. So my father would go drink with my uncle every so often on a Friday. And one night he came home and he was a little sauced. And I could tell he
yeah.
was sauced. And I always loved to greet my dad when he came home. I'm like, hey, Dad. He said, hey, Cam. And he knew I was fascinated by UFOs and aliens and space and everything like that. He said, hey, do you hear UFOs landed in Washington, D.C.? I said, what? He said, yeah, it's going to be on the news. So back then, of course, the only news source you had was a passive news source. You had to wait for it to come on and sit and watch it. So we were past the local news because he'd gotten home kind of late. So I said, "Well, can I stay up and watch the news?" He said, "Sure can." So he sat in the sofa, and I swear to God, he watched me with a smile and kind of internally laughing as I sat there and waited for the late night news at 11 o'clock. And then there was nothing about the UFOs. And he was sitting on the sofa. He looked at me and said, "You really believe that?"
Oh,
The
so me.
time, his little funny drunken antic that he thought was so hilarious wasn't funny to me.
No.
But you know what? That was the start of a skeptical mindset for me. If my father
Yeah.
would play upon my hopes and desires and be able to fool me so succinctly and so deeply,
Mhm.
that means that other people in the world would do so without the love behind it, would do so
Mhm.
more in a nefarious way. And I think
Interesting.
that helped me to become very skeptical. So when my mother joined the cult, tried to drag my father along with him, um, I was very skeptical.
Yeah.
And that skepticality caused me to want to learn and read and make sure what you were telling me is the truth. Is this the truth? Is it really? I need to make sure. So, I'd like to take credit for my strength, but I think that, as most of
Wow.
our strengths, they can come from strange places. So I credit my father fooling me about aliens to perhaps the strength that caused me to be able to survive to this day.
That is a great story. That is a great story. Okay. All the best of luck with your musical, and
Appreciate it.
please let me know when that comes out. And if you do write something else and you have another memoir, come back and let's chat some
So
more.
I will absolutely do that, Nikki. Thank you. This has been delightful. I appreciate everything you do for the community.
And
Seriously. Thank
thank
you.
you, thank you. Is there anything you want to add, that any upcoming event or anything?
And there is one event at the San Diego Library recognized me as one of their local authors, which is lovely.
That's very
As
lovely.
you mentioned earlier, the being able to stand in the library with a book I've written after library saved my life, crazy. Um, but thank you. No, I do appreciate that. No current events to plug. I would just say that if anybody is going through a high control religious group, a young person, and you're trying to find yourself and break free, it starts with your mind. You have to free your mind, and then you free your body, and then you live
Yeah.
your life.
Yeah. Is it that song, Free Your Mind and the Rest Will Follow?
That's a good one. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. True.
All right. Well, again, thank you so much.
Thank you, Nikki. Have a lovely day.
You too. All right. Bye-bye.